Okay, I was trying to correct an error in the other video. He knocks his camera over around the 1 minute, 15-second timestamp. And then when he fixes it and restarts the problem, he says some correct things, but he also ends up kind of doing it a little wrong. And I believe what he's looking at, if I'm not forgotten it, was that it was a ratio of 2 feet to 24 inches. And it's correctly being talked about that it needs to be a unit conversion here because you can't actually directly compare these. And there's a couple different ways you could go about it, but one thing you could do is multiply 2 by 12 because 2 feet is 24 inches, which makes this numerator 24 inches, which is actually the same as the original denominator. And so this actually reduces out to 1-to-1, that this was a 1-to-1 ratio because 2 feet was equal to 24 inches. So that's kind of the correction. So I'm going to do like an extra example so that you have something else to compare to. So what if we were interested in the ratio of 3 days to 8 hours? Or if you write it as a fraction, 3 days, 8 hours. Now, really, you shouldn't write it this way, but we all do, because really you want to go ahead and get the units the same before you write it this way. I'm not going to turn 8 hours into a fractional part of a day. I'm going to multiply the 3 days by 24 hours in a day so that I know how many hours are in 3 days. 3 times 20 is 60. 3 times 4 is 12. 60 plus 12 is 72. So 3 days is 72 hours. I wanted that in ratio to 8 hours. And again, I kind of picked one where it's going to divide out nicely. 72 divided by 8 is 9-to-1. So it won't always divide out nicely, but here's another one where, again, I kind of made it divide out nicely. One more, and I'm going to try to make sure that it doesn't divide out nicely this time. What about the ratio of, let's just do it with numbers. What about the ratio of 16 to 30? So we're not worried about units. So these are just numbers. We can directly do it. No conversions necessary. The way that I want you all thinking about this is that 16, is 2 times 8, and 30 is 2 times 15. And the 2's will cancel. And so I've basically cut both numbers in half. And now if you think about 8, it's 2 times 4. And if you think about 15, it's 3 times 5. And you can't get anywhere with that. There's nothing that's going to cancel. And so this is actually a simplest form for that ratio. And then one of the things you do with ratios a lot is proportion problems. And that's when you don't know one of the quantities involved. You have one ratio equal to another. And he uses this phrase that I want to kind of explain just a little bit more. He talks about the means and the extremes. And so this is going to maybe remind some of you of like cross multiplying, or the first few times you saw this in like middle school. We might have even called it something like butterfly method or something like that. But when you read this proportion, the two numbers in the middle, if A, B, C, and D were just all numbers, the two that you would read, because you read it this way, the two you would read in the middle are the means. Whereas the first thing that you read, A, And the second thing that you read, last thing that you read, I'm distracted by my Zoom not working right. These two things are the extremes because they're the first and last thing that you say when you read. And so the idea is that the product of the means is equal to the product of the extremes. He did that with a number. He did that with one of the things being a variable. Let's say that I'll do a fairly complicated one. We want a number x such that 5x minus 1 over 2 is in proportion to, let's say, 7 to 4. I have no clue how this is going to work out. I just made the numbers up. So we cross multiply. 4 times 5x minus 1 would equal 2 times 7. A lot of people just do this step in their head, but I wanted to show it. Distribute the 4. 4 times 5x is 20x. 4 times 1 is negative 4, or subtraction by 4. 2 times 7 is 14. We would add 4 on both sides to cancel the 4 and get 18. We would divide both sides by 20. And 18 out of 20 is a fraction, and it doesn't divide evenly, but it would reduce. And so if we cut both numbers in half, since they're both even, it would be 9 to 10. And so the number that actually would make this original statement true is not a very nice number. And I didn't expect it to be a nice number since I just made up numbers. So that's kind of a quick one that corrects the error in the other video and also shows you another example with cross multiplying. So thanks for your time.